Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. It's great to be in front of you, see you all here, help us communicate with the community about all the good work that's been going on this year at the Fresno Police Department and in our city. So I appreciate you being here and listening. And with that, we'll get started. I often talk about the priorities for this agency as I meet with community members or talk to you during interviews. And those priorities are preservation of life, build and maintain trust with our community, and crime reduction, of course, and dealing with quality of life issues. I'm proud to say that we've made tremendous progress on all of those priorities this year. And with regard to preservation of life, we'll get started because that's number one. This year, I'm very proud to announce that we had a 51-year low in murders in the city of Fresno. And that is something that just standalone to me is so significant. I want to make sure everybody gets that. Not since 1973 have we had that few of murders. Our population has more than doubled since then, which makes it even more significant. And just looking back a few years ago in 2020 and both 2021 as well, we had 74 murders in the city, and this year we've reduced that down to 22, which is truly remarkable. 70% reduction since that time, and then even though we had great reductions last year, since 24 to 25, we had another 27% reduction in murders just since last year. But I have to stop for a second because it's not about the numbers. These are about the people and the families that didn't have to deal with the tragedy in our city this year of a lost loved one and all the ripple effects that has on so many lives. So we're grateful we've been able to make this kind of an impact, not just for ourselves to stand here and be proud, but for the people in this community to actually have a better chance at life. One of the biggest murder reductions this year were in gang cases. We had 22 last year and 9 this year, which is very significant, and I will get into that a little bit more later on. These reductions, they demonstrate that every member of this department is committed to the mission and the priorities that I've set out. And that goes from our patrol officers to our homicide detectives to our staff members in this department. It's not just about the cases, though, right, and the numbers and the reductions. It's in preventing murders, although that's most important, through proactive police work. It's also solving the murders that do happen. And I'm proud to announce that we have a 105% clearance rate this year in murders. We did clear a few from previous years. We have a couple that we're still in progress of clearing from 2025. But the way that the National Incident Reporting requires, it's still a 105% clearance rate for this year. I want to give you a little perspective on that. Nationally, the clearance rate for murders is around 60%, and we're at 105% this year. A filing rate, that's something else, right? We can make arrests, but if the DA can't file them and they're not quality, then that doesn't do a whole lot for the community. And I'm proud to say that we have a 95% filing rate, and that's a reflection on our strong partnership with the District Attorney's Office and their commitment and our shared mission of making Fresno a safer place for everyone who lives here. Moving on to some of the next slides about our shootings, which is another metric that we track very closely here in Fresno. And when I talk about a shooting, I should clarify that it's into a building, into a car, and at a person, whether or not they're struck. And since 2020, when we had a high of 732 shootings in Fresno, we've had a 78% reduction. And this year, we're down to 162 shootings. With reference to non-fatal gunshot wounds, which are when someone actually is struck, we've also had a decrease significantly. But most remarkably are solving those cases. Suspects were arrested in 79% of those gunshot wound cases, which is very significant. The national average for arrests on those type of cases I've read is about 20 to 30%, and we are nailing it at 79% of arrests in those cases. And the reasons that we solve these cases is because of our long tradition on investigating non-fatal shootings similarly to how we investigate murders. Take a little walk back in history into 2002. Then Lieutenant Dennis Bridges, under Mayor Dyer as chief, launched our Street Violence Bureau, which still exists today. And some of our key components to that are detectives respond out immediately to any shooting and follow up on any leads and put the resources out there, whether it's going door to door, whether it's seeking video, whatever it may be, authoring search warrants, and getting authorized search warrants, and using all the technological advancements that we've provided them to solve these murders. A key component, though, to this violent crime reduction, both murders and shootings, is our partnership with MAGIC. The Multi-Agency Gang Enforcement Consortium started many years ago, is a proud tradition here in the Valley and a model for other agencies and counties throughout the nation. Under the leadership of Lieutenant Andre Benson, his incredible contribution has led to that 85% reduction in gang shootings since 2020, when he took command of our Metro Magic team. Some of the strategies that we use here in Fresno are used around the country, and in fact, as part of the National Case Clearance Project on how other agencies can work to solve shootings, especially non-fatal ones, and impact their violent crime rates. Another major factor in the reduction of violent crime is the recovery of crime guns. Those are illegally possessed guns, privately manufactured guns which are illegal, or they're used in a crime. We recovered 1,459 guns this year, a couple hundred more than we did last year. And this is a good time to thank every officer out there who made it their mission to impact violent crime by taking these illegally possessed guns off the street. As you can imagine, risk comes with every one of those guns that came off the street. And I see our numbers don't match there, so make sure you use the number off of our PowerPoint. There were a few seized at the last moment that got added on. This also is a good time just to remind the community that these crime reductions do come at a cost and at tremendous risk to our officers. 3 incidents in the past 3 years have resulted in suspects shooting and striking 3 of our officers. Thankfully, 2 were not injured, and 1 was injured but recovered and is back to full duty today. We also had 381 officers assaulted in 2025 while they were out there performing their duties. And I just want to take this opportunity to recognize our officers, their courageousness, and their dedication to showing up every day in this community to make it a safer place for the people who live and work here. Overall, you can see the violent crime is down 5%. The very large reductions in murder and shootings aren't reflected as much because the large volume of aggravated assaults, which continue to be driven, although there's a reduction this year of 5% in those, they continue to be driven by domestic violence of a serious nature. And the vast majority of those cases, arrests are made by our officers because it's a known offender. Last year, we saw a few increases in property crime. This year, we have an across-the-board reduction in all of our property crime. And I know that impacts a significant number of people living and working in Fresno as well who've experienced a window smash or a burglary or a vandalism. Most significantly, I think, is auto theft because it's a very good bellwether on crime and reported crime. And the percentage is 34% reduction from last year. Last year we had an increase. This year is a large decrease, but the number, 1,250 fewer cars stolen, is very significant because I think you've heard me talk about this before. Those are people who might lose their car and not have a way to get to work. They could lose their job. They could become unhoused. And so it's really important for us to remember this is a big impact on the people trying to make a living here in Fresno. So I'm very proud of this number, that we've been able to reduce it partially by instituting a second career criminal auto theft team, and as well as working with juvenile probation on some of our most prolific thieves who are repeated thieves of both Kia and Hyundai vehicles. Moving on to traffic, I think it was a headline not too long ago, and I'm very well aware that we have more traffic fatalities in this city than murders. And that's something we work hard to impact, and you'll hear why. It is a reduction from last year, a 17% reduction in fatalities from 24 to 25. The majority of these traffic fatalities are pedestrians versus a vehicle. And the majority of those pedestrians were illegally in the roadway when they were struck and killed. Also, the majority of those pedestrians were either under the influence or intoxicated at the time that they were struck and killed. We work hard, though, to prevent this. We have 47 operations last year. On top of our normal daily traffic duties, we held 47 special operations targeting high-risk driving behavior, such as distracted driving, red light running, things like that. And that was nearly every week in 2025 we held a traffic operation on top of our regular duties. So we do targeted enforcement based on collision data, again, targeting those high-risk driving behaviors. And I am proud to say that we increased the number of citations issued from 34,340 in 2024 to 40,332 in 2025. And that's with the same number of traffic officers. They're working really hard because I hear you. I hear a lot of complaints. I know the mayor does as well about traffic. And I want you to know that we take it just as seriously as violent crime. Next, moving on to organized retail theft. This is something I know that has a lot of community interest as well, and I see a lot of headlines from other agencies around the state talking about some of their arrests and their successes. And meanwhile, we've been quietly working with our heads down and recovered over $1.2 million in stolen merchandise this year through our organized retail theft investigations that led to 659 arrests. 29 blitz operations where we concentrate on the highest locations where the highest number of thefts occur. And this has largely contributed to the decline in larcenies here in our city, which was one of the statistics you saw under property crimes. The district attorney is here. We work closely with her and her team to ensure that Prop 36 is doing what the voters mandated, and that is holding thieves accountable for victimizing people in our community. We've accomplished these reductions, though not by ourselves. They're thanks to the support of our community, because if we didn't have the support of our community, we couldn't go out there and do the proactive police work that we do. Also, our elected officials who've consistently supported us in all of our endeavors, and our city administration, the city manager and mayor here behind me, of course, are very staunch supporters of our department to help us accomplish the mission of keeping this city safe. I'd also like to thank our officers for everything that they've done to help us meet these goals of reducing crime in the community and making Fresno safer. Currently, we're 92% of all sworn police officer positions filled, but we're always looking for good people to join our department, and I can't not make a recruitment pitch. So if you or someone out there is looking for purpose and structure and a way to make a real practical difference in this community every day that you show up for work, check us out at Instagram at joinfresnopd.com. I'm sorry, that's our website, Join Fresno PD on Instagram. As you can see, we've been out solving crime, making arrests this year, but we still make time to engage with our community, events both large and small. Making connections and getting to know people happened at over 2,000 events this year in which Fresno police officers were present. The people who live here make this a special place to serve as a police officer, and we are beyond grateful to be able to serve. So thank you all very much. With that, I'll turn it over to Mayor Dyer. Should I turn it over to Georgeanne?
Thank you, Chief Casto. I appreciate that. And I stand here today as a very proud mayor of a city that is so safe that it is something I think everyone in the city should be very, very proud of. And I want to begin by saying congratulations to Chief Casto, to the entire Fresno Police Department for their accomplishments, as well as to this entire community. I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize our DA, because DA Smittcamp has been a staunch prosecutor for many, many years. And without that partnership between the police department and the district attorney's office, we would not achieve the successes that we've had here. And also our city manager, who has oversight of the police department. But again, congratulations, not only to the department, but to the community and to all of those who played a role in reducing the crime to the degree that we've seen. After spending 40 years in the Fresno Police Department, the last 18 as a police chief, I know how difficult it is to be able to reduce crime in a city like Fresno, especially to the degree that we've seen in 2025. And as a mayor, community safety is my top priority. And it should be for every mayor in America. Safety is foundational to any local government. And I've seen firsthand the impact that crime has on a community, or can have on a community. When I go back in time to the 1980s and 1990s, when drive-by shootings, carjackings, home invasion, robberies, and murders led the nightly news every single night, it was something that we had grown accustomed to in the city of Fresno. At that time, we were labeled the car theft capital of the nation, because we had more cars stolen in Fresno than any place else in the country. And I've witnessed what can happen when fear grips a community, the paralysis that can set in, children afraid to walk to school or to play in the park or even their front yard. The psychological impact that crime can have on our children and their ability to study or to learn. The economic impact that it can have on a local economy or region, to be able to attract or to be able to retain business, people that are afraid of going shopping, people that are afraid to go out to eat, the reputation of a city. For many, many years, decades in fact, the city of Fresno had a reputation for being one of the most violent places in America. And what that does is it prevents people from visiting your city. It impacts tourism. And so I am proud to say that that is not the Fresno that we live in today. In fact, we live in a much safer place today, a safer place to raise a family, a safer place to live, especially compared to the most recent years in 2020 and 2021. You heard Chief Casto talk about what happened during those 2 years when we had COVID. We had social unrest in America. And as a result, we had skyrocketing crime in our cities across the nation, and Fresno was not immune to that. So to say that we, as a city, are experiencing the lowest number of murders for 51 years is significant. And we should take time to pause and to celebrate that accomplishment. 22 murders in a city of 560,000 people is remarkable. However, that's 22 people too many. But when you compare that to 2020 and 2021, that's 52 fewer families that had to bury a loved one as a result of a violent crime within our city. Equally impressive is the reduction in the number of shootings that have occurred in our city. It's remarkable to know that we have seen 570 fewer shootings when compared to 2020. In 2025, 570 fewer shootings. And what drives that is gang-related shootings. Historically, Fresno has been known for having a high concentration of gangs, as many as 20,000 gang members in this city. And with that, there's a lot of violence. And when you think that over the last 5 years, we've had an 85% reduction in gang shootings in our city. We went from 313 gang shootings in 2020 to 70 in 2025. That is remarkable. And to know that we had 267 fewer people that were shot in our city that had to be treated and transported to a hospital, it is something that I think is, at least our community hospital is very, very satisfied with that. We've seen reports, and you've reported in the media, that violent crime reductions have occurred across America, and I agree. But not to the degree that we've seen in Fresno. Fresno's reductions are far more dramatic than anywhere else than I've heard of in the entire country. And not just violent crime, property crime as well. And the most notable, as was mentioned, is that of auto theft. When I said earlier that we were referred to as the auto theft capital of the nation, we didn't take pride in that. It was an embarrassment for a city to know that we were having as many as 37 cars stolen every single day in our city. And to know that this last year, in 2025, we had 1,250 fewer cars stolen in our city than the previous year, that is remarkable. And that means that people that rely on their vehicle to go to the doctor, go to the grocery store, to go to work, to go to school, those people were not negatively impacted and did not have to seek out alternative transportation in order to get to their destination. So yes, we're proud of that. And the big question is why? Why the reductions? I get asked that all the time and have for many, many years. And I've always said that there's no single reason for an increase in crime, and there's no single reason for a decrease in crime. But there are a number of factors that play a role in what drives the reduction or increase in crime. And I'd like to begin by saying that cops count. Police matter. When you hire additional police officers and you use them in the right way, which this police department does, you're going to see reductions in crime. We've added 92 police officers to the authorized strength since I've been the mayor over the last 5 years. And the use of accurate and timely data through the Crime View system to be able to make sure that they're recognizing crime trends as they occur and deploying resources accordingly. And this department does that. That's what's referred to as intelligence-led policing. And to have sound crime reduction strategies that this police department employs every single day. And to have immediate investigative follow-up. You talked about, the chief talked about the creation of the Street Violence Bureau back in 2002. I think it's one of the most important things the department ever did was because of the investigative follow-up that we could have on violent crimes and the ability to increase clearance rates, which they have. And the use of state-of-the-art technology. We can't overlook that. There's a lot of technology out there today that's being offered. Not all of it is good for policing. But I'd say this police department takes advantage of the technology that is out there, whether it's the ShotSpotter system and being able to detect gunshots, the license plate readers, the video cameras that are out and about, including Ring doorbells in residential areas, the NIBIN system, which allows them to analyze shell casings and connect them to different type of shootings and crimes, the use of helicopters, and now the use of drones, which is very, very effective in policing today. And but most of all, the reason I think that crime has been reduced so much in our city is because of great leadership. Right here under Chief Casto. And the leadership of all of her team, her staff, her deputy chiefs, captains, lieutenants, sergeants, all the way down, and the hard work of the men and women of the Fresno Police Department, both in the sworn and non-sworn ranks. And I'd be remiss if I did not highlight the impact the community has had on reducing crime. Those people that take the time to call in 911 to report a crime when many won't. People that are willing to come forth as a witness and provide police and detectives with the information that they need to be able to solve a crime. It takes a lot of courage to do that, especially when you're dealing with gang violence. Advanced peace, the folks that are out there, intervention specialists, making sure that we don't see the retaliatory type shootings that can occur as a result of a gang shooting. The community-based organizations, whether it's the Boys and Girls Clubs, Big Brothers and Big Sisters, Police Activity League, Crime Stoppers, Hope Now for Youth, and our Youth Jobs Corps program in the city of Fresno. We've hired 525 people now, hard to hire individuals that have been touched by the criminal justice system that oftentimes end up in the criminal justice system. We're providing them with employment. And so I stand here to say that I'm very pleased with the results, but still not satisfied as the mayor, as I know the chief isn't. We still have much work to do, especially as you saw in reducing traffic fatalities involving pedestrians that are generally caused by distracted drivers, speeders, and pedestrians who are careless and cross the streets when it's unsafe to do so. I'm very confident this police department is going to do much more this coming year to reduce those fatalities, even though they've had a 17% reduction this last year. And so let me close by saying this. When a mayor and a city council and a community sees these types of results, it makes it much more easier to add resources to a police department because we see that we're getting a return on investment. And I hear that often. What is the return on investment for the resources and the funding we're providing? Well, I hope you can see today there's been a tremendous return on investment. And that's why we will continue to invest in our public safety departments, whether it's police or fire. This coming year, you're going to see a new 911 center that is built. You'll see a new police headquarters that is being built, as well as technology, equipment, support staff, and the additional police officers, all for the purpose of keeping the people of Fresno safe. And lastly, I'd like to say thank you to our city council. They have been very, very supportive of this police department and public safety. In general, when I come to them with requests as part of my budget, they've been very, very supportive of it. And I want to say thank you because oftentimes they don't get the credit that they deserve. And lastly, I want to say thank you to the DA and Chief Casto, as well as all of our leadership team for their dedication and for the dedication of the men and women of the Fresno Police Department who work tirelessly to keep the folks in Fresno safe. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chief Casto.
Excuse me. Any questions you have I'd like to answer?
Yeah, do you have any numbers about the total DUI arrests for 2025?
I do. I don't have them in front of me, but I can certainly supply you with that afterwards. And it was an increase in DUI arrests, though, by a couple hundred. See, he's got a mind like a computer.
And then also, last year we talked about the technology. I know the mayor just talked a lot about it as well. Do you know how many ShotSpotter activations there were?
More than the number of shootings, but I don't have the number off the top of my head. But certainly, there were several serious cases in which ShotSpotter alerted us to a shooting that we didn't receive a call for service. So undoubtedly, it helped preserve life by being able to respond to that call for service through ShotSpotter.
So with the pedestrian deaths, there were more pedestrian deaths than homicides. Why is that number so high? Can you talk about what you do?
Well, there's more traffic fatality deaths than murder. I think there were 28 pedestrian deaths, so it was, in fact, as you said, greater than the murder. And can I talk about it? It's people who are out there in the streets and, again, often intoxicated and not being able to look out for their own best interests that are struck by a vehicle as a vehicle's lawfully traveling through the roadway.
So can you do anything about that? Or
In traffic enforcement, we've done multiple pedestrian operations. As I mentioned, we did 47 traffic operations, but I do agree kind of with the path that you're taking there. I think we need to shift some more of our operations directly towards pedestrian enforcement, and that's something we're prepared to do for 2026.
Chief, you said that we had a reduction in gang murders, but Mayor Dyer still said we still have a lot of gang members, 20,000 in the city. What do we do for prevention and intervention for our youth? Are there any programs you can highlight?
Yeah, I mean, we participate in a number of them, but we don't run the majority of them. But he named a few, PAL, Hope Now for Youth, the Job Corps here through the city, employing youth. There's a number of around this city and faith-based organizations, other civic organizations, and nonprofits that help to support the youth in this community. And you had a beginning to that question. I think I skipped over that part. What was it?
Are we seeing that impacted? And
Yeah.
obviously, yes, with the reduction of gang
Yeah.
murders.
Well, I think a big part of it is communicating with the gangs. We let them know if crime is going to happen, that there's going to be a response. And it's clear communication that's helped reduce. And I happen to know, with talking to a few people that are gang involved in this city, that they don't mostly want their children involved in that kind of a lifestyle. So we try to capitalize on that. And gang people have their own priorities and their own reasons for doing what they do, but most of them want the best for their children. So we try to capitalize on that wherever we can and to help those kids escape the gang life moving forward.
Now, Chief, schools are they're opening up after the Christmas break. I usually see people like speeding through the 25 zone, because I'm also a teacher, so people are going 40, 50
Yes, sir.
miles per hour. What is Fresno PD doing to prevent? Because there has been some cases where kids got hit. So are we doing anything to prevent those?
Yes, there are far more schools in the city than there are traffic officers, so we have to enlist the help of others, including our patrol officers, the schools themselves, and educating the parents on and the passersby, because oftentimes it's the parents too who are creating a hazard in the school zones. So absolutely, we do enforcement on that, and that's actually more of one of our daily duties versus an operation, as I spoke about with Mr. Miller here. So absolutely, we do put emphasis on that, and nothing's more tragic than losing a child. So that's something that we constantly work to prevent.
The mayor talked a little bit about the drones. How have the drones really changed enforcement for the department?
Well, I can tell you, there's two levels to drones. We've had traditional drones that are assigned to an officer. An officer arrives on a call and is able to deploy them. And in fact, on New Year's Eve, we had officers put a drone into a building and it was shot down by the suspect, and shots were fired at the officer's direction, which was very scary. But that drone obviously took the place of an officer getting eyes on the interior of that building. And so it's a lifesaver, and I can't overstate that. That's where drones have traditionally been, but we're moving into drone first responder, which is the next generation. And that's a drone that's placed on a dock on a building, and that can respond with a remote pilot from here at headquarters, and we can have a drone anywhere in the city, and it can respond to that call, and we'll get eyes on that call before an officer can ever arrive. And it's valuable in so many ways. Safety of the public. We know what's going on. We can see a man in a red shirt with a gun. The officer has that information before they arrive in case there's nobody there to see it. It can also clear a call in limited circumstances, allowing us to respond to other emergencies. If perhaps there's a traffic hazard, the drone can get overhead and say, oh, it's cleared, it's gone. Then we don't need to send an officer to check on that. So, but first and foremost, life-saving, life preservation of the public, helping us to gather intelligence on a call for service before we ever get there. And so we are purchasing 3 systems this year, three drone systems, 3 docks. 2 are under our organized retail theft grant that I referenced earlier. So they'll be placed in the areas with the highest retail theft, which is Northeast and Northwest Fresno. And I also, through generous donations from this community, We were able to purchase a third, and that will go here on headquarters so that it can service downtown as well as the Tower District, because they have about a 3-mile optimal radius.
Have we seen with the DA work, keeping people in jail longer has brought these levels down completely for crime? Have we seen any of that?
I can say this, that the relationships have never been better between the three agencies. And the jail works very hard. They are under their own kind of constrictions on who they can and cannot hold, but we communicate regularly on a case-by-case basis. Some of the most prolific criminals in the city, we work to make sure that they get held. And of course, the district attorney's been a long-standing partner. Our district attorney is really I'll talk about that too. Yeah, the district attorney is a crime-fighting hero in my book, so she'll stand here and laugh behind me. And the mayor reminded me, we also still, the Fresno Police Department pays for jail beds. So if there's somebody who's in a lower level offense, a quality of life type crime, we can hold them in jail and help to prevent additional victimization of people in the city.
You said how many of
It's a lot to unpack there. I'm sorry.
how many of those you had, the jail beds?
I mean, we have 3 right now.
5 now.
But has
We
the
reduced them.
recidivism rate, have you seen that go down for these people that have been in Fresno repeating their crimes over and over? Have we seen
Well-
is that part of this?
Yes, I think what we're talking about is there was a pause on the criminal justice system, right, during
Right,
COVID.
yes.
That pause has been lifted, and the machine is starting to build momentum, and that machine is us, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's department, and all of our supporting partners, local, state, and federal partnership here with crime fighting in Fresno. And yes, I think that synergy is really part of what you're seeing to really gather momentum and see the reductions that we're getting now.
I mean, all these crimes, I mean, everything's going down, but there has to be, I mean, it's just not, people are not committing more crimes. These people are not out there that were committing the crimes. They're now being kept in jail longer.
Oh, then there's just accountability and there's
Right.
consequences, where for a while when everything was on pause, it felt like there were no consequences when the courts were shut down. Well, that's back in motion now. The DA is able to try cases, and you're starting to see just the momentum build. And yes, some of the people have gotten the message, right? And some of the people, they've stopped committing crimes. Some have remained in custody.
I know that we see that return on investment. The mayor was talking about the financial support from the city. I don't know if this question is more for the mayor, but is the city looking at increasing the budget for the police department? And if so, where would that funds come from?
Well, every year during the months of January through the end of June, we go through a budget deliberation process. We look at our revenues, whether it's sales tax, property tax, and other revenue. And we also look at all of our expenditures, our contractual obligations through labor agreements. And then we see what we can afford as a city. And then the priority for the funding is going to go to public safety, police and fire. And we're fortunate. We have funds like Measure P that allow us to take care of our parks. And we have funding like Measure C and some state money that allows us to take care of our roads. But we want to make sure that, first and foremost, people of Fresno are safe. And so we'll look at that again this year. And then we also have to compare that with the reality of how many cops can you hire? You've heard today we have 92% filled, but that means there's 8% vacancy. Which means there's probably around 70-plus police officers that we could hire that we have not hired yet. Well, I definitely want us to hire every single one of those. I'd love for our vacancy rate to be below 4%. And I believe it can be achieved, but it's very, very challenging when you're competing with other agencies for the hiring of the same candidate pool. So if there is a need for additional resources, we will definitely meet those needs. And I do anticipate that we're going to be adding some officers for specific areas, or at least shuffling around some officers. I know they have some grant funding that will be going away, and then we'll have to see how that plays a role. But it's a long answer to a short question, but the reality is whatever the needs are of this department, we're going to meet those needs. And lastly, I want to say this before we close. I think we've turned a corner in the city of Fresno. For many, many years, there were a lot of people that doubted whether or not this city was ever going to get out from the reputation of crime, violent crime, property crimes. We've turned the corner, and I think you've seen that today. With a 51-year low in murders in our city, the number of violent crimes that are being reduced, dramatic decreases in gang violence and shootings overall. and the property crimes that are heading in the right direction, this city has turned the corner. As I said earlier, we are a much safer city today than we have ever been in the history of the city of Fresno. Thank you.
So, yeah, just real quick, I really intended just to be here for support today and had no intention of speaking, but I'm a lawyer, so I guess I'm going to break that. And I'm Lisa. So I just want to congratulate Chief Casto and Mayor Dyer. And when Mayor Dyer and I are in private meetings, I pride myself on teasing him and giving him a hard time and talking about how much taller I am than he is and how much younger I am and how much better looking. But I have to say, today, in front of the entire pool that's here and the people that Chief Casto and I both stand on the shoulders of Mayor Dyer, we are able today to do the work that we do, not just because of a great police department, not just because we have a mayor that was the chief that funds and a city manager that's supportive of police and fire, but we have an entire city council that is made up of all different people from clearly both political sides. We have Republicans and Democrats all over the city of Fresno and all over the county of Fresno that may have very different political views on things, but where we all come together in the city and county of Fresno is that we are all law enforcement supportive. You could have the Democrats, the independents, and the Republicans, and everybody is very supportive of public safety, community, and police and fire and the sheriff's department. We have such great partnerships. Chief Casto and Sheriff Zanoni and Kirk Haynes, the chief of probation, and I have a monthly Zoom where we just get together and talk. We support each other. We communicate. But I think it's something that's very important to say. There's two areas today that we have talked about that have not been reduced as much as we would all like them, which is the DUIs and the pedestrian issues. So I'm going to ask all of you a question. Who are the people involved in those incidents? People with substance abuse issues. How has substance abuse become such a tragic epidemic in our community over the last 10 years? And I will stand here today like I've stand here for the last decade and say it's Prop 47. So when you have an increase in DUIs and DUI fatals and pedestrian fatals, what are you talking about? You're talking about intoxicated people, whether it's alcohol or drugs. And that is the population of people that Prop 47 and AB 109 has prevented us from holding accountable. Because if you know anyone or you have anyone in your family or in your world that's ever been addicted to alcohol or drugs, you know that the only way they get recovery is if they hit a bottom. And sometimes that bottom is the criminal justice system. Sometimes that bottom is a couple of days in the clink, in the jail. Because people who have substance abuse problems are oftentimes very good human beings. They are very productive human beings who get wrapped up in whatever happens. Life is hard, and they rely on substances or alcohol to sort of cope, right? It's sort of a thing that people do. And when the criminal justice system was robbed of their ability to incarcerate people for DUIs. There are people, I mean, we have to sit, the same as the police departments do and the sheriff's department do, we have to sit with victims' families and look them in the face and say, I'm sorry that this person has 2 prior convictions or 3 prior convictions and they killed your son or they killed your daughter or they killed your mother in yet another DUI. Because we do everything that we can do. The courts do everything that we can do, but with a certain amount of jail beds, there has to only be prioritizing of what is the most egregious criminal. We have to select who goes into those beds. We have to select who do we keep incarcerated. There's a whole pretrial release program that the probation department does. And so when you have no ability to take a second-time DUI offender who is somebody clearly with an alcohol problem and incarcerate them and force them and hold that stick over them to get treatment, this is the result that you get. You get highly intoxicated people wandering around and very innocent people sometimes hitting them and killing them. And not only is it a crime, but it is a grief that normal people have to live with the rest of their lives, that they've actually killed a human being, sometimes when it was not much to do with their fault, to be their fault. And so it's a very interesting thing to me as I'm standing here listening to these things, right? Because we can certainly be proactive and have great law enforcement and great law enforcement leadership. And I can't stress enough the community engagement that all of us do I mean, these numbers are insane. 2,195 community events. That's not an officer who's paid to go out and give away a bike and eat a hot dog with a kid in a community. That's somebody who does that on top of his or her other duties. They do it to engage because we can't do our work without the cooperation of the community. So as Mayor Dyer said and Chief Casto said, this is a collaborative effort for everybody. And this is the lead police agency, the lead law enforcement agency. They bring us over 50% of our cases because of the population here in the city of Fresno. If the city of Fresno Police Department does not function at this high level, the low crime stats would not be here. So kudos to all of you at the city for doing your job. We're honored to partner with you. But really, for you journalists out there, think about it. Think about who is committing those crimes, who is involved in those crimes, and what do AB 109 and Prop 47 have to do with that? I think you can find the answer very easily. So thank you for your time.
Close it out. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you and have a happy new year. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.